Good afternoon, Tony Dottino, doing my Live with Tony, still here in Westchester, New York, attending to Evelyn's eye challenges. We did meet with the eye specialist this morning, and she is back on for surgery this Tuesday, and he's very optimistic. It's interesting talking with the people there today and the doctor that she's got caring for her, and how optimistic and positive he was about what her next steps are in terms of what she needs to do and how she can go about doing that. So you still see me bundled up a little bit. It's a little cold. It's in the low 40s. That for me is cold. I'm used to the temperatures in the 70s and 80s, and this time of the year, my friends in Orlando were telling me it's in the mid-80s, so this is like swimming time for me and walking and running outside. Instead, I'm still, as you can see, still bundled up a little bit. I wear a heavy jacket, but I'm here. But as I'm going through, sitting in the doctor's offices and waiting for the appointments to begin, it keeps hitting me about the difference between brain health and mental health. And I started thinking about this in a way where today's Live with Tony is all about what I call mental health. And mental health are your ability to communicate, your ability to remember, your ability to create and innovate, to see things in a different perspective, to learn new things, to keep your brain as a muscle. Like your brain is like a muscle. It's not a muscle, but like one, where you're constantly learning new things, or you're constantly challenging your brain to be able to do more than you've ever thought it to be. So are you reading new books? Do you have a magazine that you subscribe to that gives you new and different information? And a hobby, maybe it's knitting, maybe it's a hobby of building crafts or building objects, maybe it's clay working and things. It doesn't matter. Are you reading things that are helping you to expand your knowledge base? And that got me thinking as I was in the doctor's office, obviously waiting for her appointment. Then I'm reading a couple of new articles talking about brain health and what they are really all about. So I started thinking, gee, is brain health to me the same as mental health? And that's where I thought about today's Live with Tony, to start to distinguish a little bit about the differences. And that when I think of mental health, I'm purely thinking about our memories and our creativity and our ability to learn and develop and problem solve, come up with innovative new ways or breakthroughs in the way we've done things in the past. And so it's all about what our brain's ability is to mentally come up with new ways of looking at the same old things, or new ways of creating outcomes for things that are challenging to us in our lives. And then I got to sit and listen to the doctor talking about his experience with people, and specifically with Evelyn's eyes, and her Evelyn eye. And it just got me thinking, now here's a man with a lot of experience, and I talked to him about some science papers I had read in my science magazines, and he just snapped off, he's on top of it. He is a man in his field, and he is on top of the learning curve, and he's on top of the different elements. You just can't believe how many different things can go wrong with one person's eyes, and here's an expert that just rattles this stuff off. And so even at a profession where he's worked at it for more than 30 years, he's constantly learning and staying abreast. And so his mental health in his profession is totally on point. Now, how do I differentiate that from brain health? Well, brain health to me are the elements that maintain a good, strong, functional brain. So, for example, exercising, your sleep, and how you handle stress, and what you do in terms of eat, and how you manage your blood pressure and social interactions. Now, what's interesting about that is they do relate. So as I keep thinking about that, gee, do I want to really split them out and think of mental health as one thing and brain health as another? But sometimes we use them interchangeably, and I just, sitting today and reading this one of the science reports on what are 10 things that you need to do for your brain health, I started thinking about that as a way, well, would some of these be also apply to your mental capacities, your intellectual capabilities? And so it just got me to thinking about, in my Live with Tony today, let me give my audience a chance to reflect on this dilemma that I'm presenting to myself, which is mental health the same as brain health? And I think I'm coming out of the box of saying, no, they're a bit different. Our mental health is how we use our intellect, how we problem solve, how we learn and absorb, how we know who to speak to and remember their names. How do we remember the amount of money that we've got in our bank account or how much we're getting in our paycheck? Those are all mental activities that do need a healthy brain in order to be able to perform them. But when I think of our brain health, I think of it a little bit more clinically. How well is our hippocampus performing? How quick are our dendrites and our axons firing to create those synapses that then give us the memory traces or thought patterns or creative thoughts and ideas? And so how well is the chemistry? So I think of it as the clinical aspects of it. I think of it as the mechanisms of its working. So it got me to thinking about, the parts of an engine. You got to get your gas in the tank, and you got to put your oil and your filters and all the airflows that go through to create the combustion that propels a car. And so there's an engine health, but then a car health, So I'm a little wacky today on this, as you can tell, but I'm being spontaneous in my thinking pattern at this point and how it impacts humans and how it impacts the way we think about our ability to learn new things. And I'm an optimist. I believe all of us can learn new things. And we can learn new hobbies, and we can actually, at age 50, start a whole new career path. And I'll put my hand up and say, for 25 years, I was a finance person in the IBM company. And then I decided to start studying the human brain. And for the last 25 years, I think of myself as somebody who clearly helps people tap into their own abilities and realize that there's more they can do with their lives than they ever thought possible. And so I summarize this by saying, well, if there was hope for me, there's hope for everybody. And that hope can aspire to doing things that you never thought possible. And that's the part that gets me excited, that keeps me learning, that keeps me reading about more and more about what goes on with the human brain and our human thought patterns, and how we can build the mental acuity to be sharp in remembering people's names, or to be sharp and remember things when we go to the grocery store and what we need to buy, and to be sharp in knowing, how much money we have in our bank account so we don't overdraw or withdraw more than we, or spend more than we have in our budget and in our income streams. And so it's the mental acuity that I think of when I define mental health or mental fitness. And then the brain health are all of the mechanisms that go on in our brain, the hippocampus, the dendrites, the axon, all these, the mechanisms, the wiring in terms of how it all comes together. And what do we do to maintain brain health, like provide the right oxygen levels to it, right nutritional chemistries and elements to it. So what is it we do to keep the engine going? And then what do we do with the engine once it's beginning to think and create and communicate and develop and problem solve and love and care about things that are important to us? And so that's the kind of the distinction I have. And so when I think of it this way, I kind of then started thinking, well, in our USA Memory Championship website, we have 2 online courses that kind of really address each of these. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. On one element, we have something called Maximum Memory Mastery, which has come from years of experience in watching people compete in the USA Memory Championship, which we will be doing our 24th competition this year. And the other is what we call 6 key factors for brain health. And that covers our sleeping patterns and our mental challenges, which are part of the mental. So they do kind of interconnect. How well we do our exercise and our aerobic and anaerobic activities and flexibility activities. How do we build resilience and resistance in terms of stressful moments in our lives and pick ourselves up and keep on going? And so we've kind of got these 2 online courses, one on the 6 factors and one on the maximum memory, that really kind of cover how do we make a difference in people's lives. And that's the exciting part of the work that we do and the exciting part that keeps me going. And as I'm going through my experiences here in New York, I just keep seeing these different elements into play as I'm visiting with the caregivers in the hospital and the care and what they're delivering and how they're delivering it. And the good or bad of it, I can see some of the holes in that, and that gets me a little frustrated because they're so clear to me. And I can see where people are coming from in terms of the care they give and the love they have for the work they do. And so with that thinking, I'm going to leave you with a weekend assignment. Think about what are you doing to help integrate and build more mental fitness and more mental health for yourself. And then what are you doing to keep this overall, the big picture, this brain, what are you doing to keep it healthy so that it can have the mental fitness and the mental acuity that you want it to have? So there's your weekend assignment, and we'll see you back here on Monday, and have a good weekend.